Hello there. Tonight I'm going to take you on a quiet journey through the dark, drafty halls of a medieval castle. Beneath towering stone walls and flickering torchlight, you'll discover the hidden hardships of life behind the battlements. This isn't a tale of noble royalty, but of cold floors, cramped quarters, and the daily struggles faced by lords, ladies, servants, and soldiers alike. Wander silently through smoky kitchens, damp dungeons, and overcrowded great halls as we discover the discomforts and dangers of castle life. From the constant chill of unheated chambers to the ceaseless toil of servants and the looming threat of siege or plague, we peel back the romantic myths to reveal a harsher, grittier truth. If you enjoy tonight's story, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a like, subscribe, or maybe comment on where you are listening from. Now sit back, relax, and we will begin our journey. Before kings strode through echoing halls, before knights sang ballads of honor, before anyone thought, what a romantic era, there was just cold and stone, lots of it. You awaken before the sun even dares show its face. There's no alarm clock, just the gnawing chill in your bones and the muffled clatter of other unfortunate souls already trudging about. The room you sleep in is more dungeon than bedroom. 4 stone walls, a low ceiling, and one tiny arrow slit pretending to be a window. Your mattress, straw mostly, flattened, prickly, sometimes damp, definitely not hypoallergenic. You share this paradise with 3 other people, none of whom believe in the concept of personal space, and dozens of rats. Who do? As you shift under your scratchy wool blanket, your breath comes out in misty puffs. Welcome to winter in an English castle. Central heating? Number. You have a fire, but it's currently dead, like your hope of sleeping in. And the stone? It doesn't just feel cold. It is cold, radiating it, absorbing any trace of warmth and whispering to you, why did you think this was a good idea? You swing your legs off the straw, immediately regret it. The floor is frozen. Not metaphorically, not chilly. Icy, unkind medieval stone that feels like it was forged by someone who deeply misunderstood the concept of comfort. You reach for your shoes, wooden clogs. They don't bend, they don't support. They clack and echo like you're announcing your foul mood with every step, which you are. Now dressed in what can loosely be called clothing, a tunic that smells like last month and hose that cling like regret, you shuffle toward the great hall. Not because you want to, but because that's where your duties begin. And medieval castles aren't known for their generous HR policies. The castle is still half asleep, lit only by flickering torches and the occasional patch of moonlight slipping through narrow slits in the stone. Your breath fogs the air. You pass corridors filled with shadows. Above, the nobles sleep soundly under layers of fur and feather beds. Their rooms are heated. Their windows have glass. You try not to think about it, at least not out loud. Downstairs, others are already bustling about. There's the clatter of pails, the mumble of prayer, and a faint sound that might be someone crying into their porridge. You can't tell. You don't ask. The fire in the hearth is barely embers, so your first task, bring kindling. The castle may be a fortress, but warmth is a luxury. You trudge to the woodpile, outside naturally, brace against the wind, and stack firewood with hands that went numb 3 fingers ago. The cold is unrelenting. It seeps into your joints, into your thoughts, into your soul, if you still have one. Even the rats have retreated somewhere warmer, probably the Lord's pantry. Eventually, the fire crackles back to life, and a meagre warmth begins to spread. Not enough to banish the cold entirely, but enough to pretend it might. Breakfast is a communal affair, and by communal we mean utterly silent. The servants eat together in the lower hall. No songs, no laughter, just slurping, chewing, and the occasional cough. Your breakfast? Gourmet porridge. Made from barley, maybe oats, no sugar, no cinnamon. If you're lucky, there's a hint of salt. If you're really lucky, there's no weevil. The nobility upstairs, they're still asleep. When they rise, it will be to venison pasties, white bread, imported jam, and mulled wine. Their breath will not fog the air. Their feet will not meet frozen stone. Their rats will be for decoration only. As you scrape the last of your porridge from a wooden bowl that's seen better centuries, you glance around. Everyone looks the same. Hollow-eyed, pale, resigned. No one dreams of escaping, just surviving. Making it through another winter, another Lord's feast, another outbreak of something unpleasant. After breakfast, the chores begin. Chamber pots, fireplaces, ashes. You begin to wonder what career fulfillment would have looked like in the 12th century. You assume it's something like not dying of frostbite or resisting throwing yourself off the ramparts. But there is a familiar pace to this madness, a cadence to the misery. It's predictable, structured. You know what comes next. You know your role. There's a bizarre comfort in that, like falling asleep on a ship that's constantly sinking, but hasn't quite hit the seabed. And so, you press on. Because life in a medieval castle isn't about thriving. It's about enduring. You lift, you scrub, you haul, you nod. No one thanks you, no one sees you. But the castle needs you. Not enough to treat you kindly, of course, just enough to keep you alive. As the sun finally breaches the distant horizon and light filters through the high arrow slits, the castle begins to truly wake. Dogs bark. Hooves echo in the courtyard. Somewhere, a bell tolls. You straighten your back, take a breath, and step into the day. The cold doesn't leave. It never does. But now, at least, you're moving. The fire sputters in the hearth now, half alive, like everyone else in the room. You'd think it might bring comfort, but it mostly just mocks you. The stone walls gulp down the heat, and the few moments of warmth are fleeting. Blink, and you'll miss them. The sun is up now, technically. It's low in the sky, thin and pale, like it's not really committed to the whole sunlight thing. And why should it be? You're not. Not yet. Washing comes first. That is, if you're lucky enough to have water that isn't frozen solid. The bucket in the courtyard has formed a thin layer of ice, which you break with your bare hand and instantly regret. The water is cruel. It bites. It doesn't clean so much as punish. You splash your face anyway. Custom, obligation, maybe penance. Your fingers go numb within seconds. Your ears sting in the wind. Hygiene is less about freshness and more about proving you're still alive. You dry off with a cloth that's seen more grime than the floor and then help haul more water from the well. It's a team effort. And by team, we mean you and the other people equally unfortunate to be born into servitude. Then it's time to fetch wood. Again, always more wood. A castle may be a fortress, but its appetite for firewood is endless. You wonder how there are any forests left, considering how fast the logs vanish into smoke and ash. Next, you're in the kitchens, but sadly for you not to eat. You stoke fires, sweep cinders, knead bread dough like it owes you money. The kitchen is chaos, controlled only by the cook, who reigns with a wooden spoon and an attitude like your bitter mother. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and the acidic tang of vinegar used to clean the previous night's stinking mess. You help shape coarse loaves of barley bread, meant not for a banquet, but for workers like you. Bread that will bake dark and dense and taste like dry wood. There's no butter, no jam, no cheerful flourishes, just grain and effort. Maybe a stray oat. Maybe. As the kitchen fills with heat, you enjoy the illusion of warmth. But the moment you step outside, your sweat turns traitor, chilling you even more than before. Then it's breakfast time. Again, not for you. The nobility rises slowly, gracefully. After servants have warmed their chambers, set their clothes out by the fire, and cleared away the chamber pots. Their day begins with comfort. Yours with clean-up. You help lay out their table. Trenchers of fresh bread, honey, cheese, cured meats, and warm wine spiced with cloves and cinnamon. Cinnamon, a spice worth more than your entire year's wage, and here it is, sprinkled into a goblet like it's dust off the floor. No one thanks you. The noble lady glances at you once, maybe, then turns back to her lapdog, cleaner and better fed than you. The lord slurps his pottage and talks of hunting. His hounds are already barking in the yard, eager to chase something. You, maybe. Your own breakfast is long gone, cold in your belly, and your only reward now is the chance to clean up after the people enjoying theirs. You scrape fat from platters, wipe crumbs from embroidered tablecloths, and collect scraps for the pigs. Or, if you're daring, for your own dinner. Mid-morning brings more tasks. There's always more. You join the other servants hauling barrels of salted fish from the storehouse, brushing soot from the fireplace, repairing the rushes on the floor. Rushes that soak up filth like a cursed sponge. They're replaced occasionally, but not as often as they should be. You try not to think about what's growing beneath them. The steward barks orders. He's not cruel, just deeply efficient, which is sometimes worse. He never forgets a task, never excuses slowness, and never fails to notice a missed corner or dusty shelf. If there's any sympathy in him, he's saving it for the afterlife. Meanwhile, music echoes from upstairs. The young ladies of the court are practicing the lute. Poorly. A string twangs flat, followed by a frustrated sigh. You wish the lute would burst into flames. You'd like to help. Lunch nears, not yours, again. Theirs. You help prepare trenchers again. More meat, more bread, dried fruit soaked in wine. The castle's best food goes to the few. You help carry it in. You help carry it out. You clean the goblets, the trenchers, the greasy knives. You will not taste any of it. Your lunch comes later, and it is exactly what you expect. Yesterday's bread, a smear of soft cheese, a handful of beans. No salt, no comfort, but enough to keep your legs moving. You eat standing up. Talking is discouraged. Laughter is rare. It is not a social hour. It is refueling, like tossing logs into a furnace that never rests. Outside, the courtyard is coming to life. The stable boys shout at each other over the whinnies of horses. A blacksmith's hammer rings out in rhythmic clanging. Somewhere, a rooster crows late, confused by the lack of sunlight. The castle seems grand from afar, stone towers reaching skyward, banners snapping in the wind. But from inside, it is something else entirely. A machine, one that consumes labor like firewood. And you are part of the fuel. You breathe out slowly, letting your thoughts wander for a brief moment. Somewhere in the distance, the church bells toll noon. Not a promise, just a marker. Half the day remains, and now it's time to carry chamber pots, again. Here is a unique kind of humility that comes with carrying someone else's chamber pot. It teaches you things about status, about silence, about the fragility of dignity when warm stew and weak bowels collide. It's not glamorous, but it is consistent. You've done it before. You'll do it again. You do it now. The chamber pots are heavy, sloshy, wood or pewter, depending on how fashionable their owners like their filth. You hold them away from your body, though at this point, your tunic has absorbed worse. You walk carefully, lest the contents decide to join you. There are rules, unspoken ones. Don't make eye contact with the pot's owner. Don't comment on the contents. And never, ever ask what they ate. You dump the waste into a cesspit in the courtyard, a marvel of medieval plumbing that is less engineering miracle and more regrettable moat adjacent. The smell is, shall we say, persistent. It doesn't just cling to your nostrils. It enters your soul. After so many trips, you've stopped trying to fight it. Once the pots are empty, they must be scrubbed, not gently, thoroughly, with sand, lye, and whatever cold water you can find that doesn't already have floating things in it. You scald your hands, even though the water isn't hot. That's how raw they become. Next come the rushes. The great hall looks grand if you're standing very far away. Stone arches, high ceilings, rich banners. From the perspective of a guest or a painter, it's awe-inspiring. From your perspective, on your knees, picking hair, bones, and something unidentifiable out of floor rushes, it's disgusting. Rushes are scattered across the floors as a kind of medieval carpet. They're meant to absorb spills, soak up odors, and provide a bit of cushion underfoot. In reality, they become a flattened mat of filth. Beer dregs, meat scraps, candle wax, spittle, dirt, and yes, the occasional flea or dead mouse. Your job? Rake them up, clean the floor underneath, and lay down fresh ones. Preferably before the next banquet. Preferably without throwing up. You work with others, fellow servants whose names you know but rarely use. You share glances, occasional jokes, and a bond forged in shared misery. No one's cheerful, but no one's alone either. After the rushes comes the soot. The great tapestries that adorn the hall, glorious woven depictions of hunts and battles and saints, collect more than admiration. They collect smoke and grease and spiderwebs. You climb a ladder that wobbles unsettlingly and gently, oh so gently, scrub the tapestries with a stiff brush and a mixture of vinegar and water. Too hard and you'll damage them. Too soft and the cook will call you back to do it again. Each stroke of the brush leaves your arms more tired. Each moment brings more ash down into your face. You cough, but of course you must do it, quietly. And these tapestries, they aren't for you. They're for visiting nobles, for guests, for the Lord's pride. They serve no practical purpose whatsoever, unlike you. They just hang there grand, heavy, and gathering dirt. And yet, you keep cleaning them, because everything in a castle must shine. Except, of course, the people who clean it. The bell rings again. Mid-afternoon. More duties await. The laundry is next. Ah yes, another chance to freeze your fingers off while scrubbing undergarments that no one will thank you for. You gather linens from the Lord's chamber, careful not to look too closely at the stains, and carry them to the washing area. There is no soap. Not in the sense of what we know it to be anyway. You use lye, sometimes ashes mixed with water. You beat the garments against rocks. You wring them until your wrists ache. Then you hang them to dry, watching the wind try to undo your labor by blowing smoke, dirt and ash all over your hard work. You pass the tailor's corner. The seamstress is hunched over a pile of torn hose. She doesn't look up. Her needle flashes in the low light. She's been sewing since dawn. Everywhere you go, someone is working. Scrubbing, hauling, stitching, boiling, hammering. Every inch of the castle is a symphony of labour, held together not by chivalry or romance, but by effort, by backs bent at just the right angle, by hands calloused into utility, and it's all invisible. The guests don't see the soot under your fingernails. The lord doesn't know your name. The lady may nod at you once if she mistakes you for someone else. But the castle knows you. It creaks under your weight. It exhales your breath in the cold. It holds your sweat in its stones, your blood in its mortar. The grandeur they boast about. The grand banquets, the polished armour, the clean corridors. It's all built on your spine. You finish with the laundry and are handed a broom. Back to the kitchens. Ashes need clearing. Bones need sweeping. A rat is nibbling on a spilled fig. You chase it away with the broom's frayed edge. It looks at you offended. Someone drops a pan. The cook shouts something in French. No one understands her, but everyone flinches. You sweep quietly, methodically. Your feet ache. Your back groans. But you keep going, because there's always something else. Something to lift, something to carry, something to clean. You are the invisible glue that keeps this crumbling, drafty, cold, unsanitary fortress from collapsing into chaos. Not that anyone will say so. They don't see you. But the rats do. And honestly, they're better company. If hell had a pantry, it would look a lot like this. The castle kitchen isn't a room. It's an ordeal. A cavernous, smoke-filled chamber buried deep in the stone belly of the fortress, where fire breathes through cracks and tempers flare like boiling grease. You step through the heavy wooden door and feel the air thicken instantly. It's not just warm, it's molten. Dozens of hearths roar at once. Cauldrons swing from iron hooks, bubbling with stews and sauces and the occasional unidentifiable chunk. The scent is complex. Meat, onions, burning fat, sweat, stale beer, and smoke. Always smoke. It crawls along the ceiling beams, snakes into your hair, and settles in your lungs like an unwelcome squatter. Your job here? Everything. You stir thick pots with ladles the size of boat oars. You hack turnips with a knife so blunt it's more of an angry suggestion than a sharp blade. You dodge the baker's assistant, who sprints past you carrying trays of half-formed bread rolls that look, at best, like edible rocks. The cook, known only as Mistress Alisoun, stands in the centre of it all like a battle general. Flour on her apron, fire in her eyes. She directs the chaos with guttural orders and occasional profanity that no one dares repeat. She knows every ingredient, every name, and every mistake, especially yours. You're not here to eat. That's important to remember. This kitchen doesn't serve food. It prepares spectacle. Platters of roasted pheasant, pies shaped like mythical beasts, and trenchers soaked in butter for people who will never thank you. You spend your hours surrounded by food, but you'll taste none of it. Not unless you're brave enough to steal and stupid enough to get caught. Still, the scraps have value. A crust of bread here, a bit of meat there. If you catch them before the rats do, you can wrap them in cloth and hide them in your sleeve. Later, in secret, they become dinner or currency. Someone drops a chicken, not a raw one, a roasted, basted, golden-skinned bird destined for the Lord's midday table. It hits the stone floor with a splat and a collective gasp. Mistress Alisoun storms over, grabs the unfortunate assistant by the ear, and delivers a scolding so fierce you swear the walls recoil. Then she picks up the chicken, brushes it off with a cloth, and places it right back on the platter. Waste is for the rich. The ovens bake constantly. Round loaves, stuffed pastries, little balls of dough for the hounds. The baker works bare-chested despite the heat, his arms coated in flour, his forehead shining. His bread is passable. His mood is not. In the corner, someone is gutting fish. Carp, eels, maybe a pike or two. Scales stick to their hands. Blood pools around their boots. The smell is memorable. Above you, iron racks dangle herbs, thyme, rosemary, sage. Decorative and mostly for show. Actual seasoning is a rare extravagance. Nobles like their food rich and absurd. Spiced with imported things, pepper, cloves, saffron. You once carried a pouch of saffron worth more than your life, literally. You were told as much by the steward. A pot boils over. You lunge for it, grab a cloth, yank it off the flame. Too late. Your fingers are burned, again. You hiss quietly and bite your lip. No one notices, or rather, no one cares. You wrap your hand in linen and keep working. Lunch nears. Plates are arranged, garnishes scattered like battlefield debris. A pie is carved into the shape of a swan. A roasted boar is given an apple and a sneer. Platters must be carried upstairs, carefully. One stumble, and the cook might throw you in the fire. Maybe not literally, but maybe. You carry a silver tray toward the Lord's hall. It's heavy, slick with juices, and threatening to tip at every step. You breathe slowly, focus, balance. 1 foot at a time. You make it, barely. The nobles eat. You return. The cycle repeats. Back in the kitchen, dinner is already being prepped. More chopping, more stirring, more hauling barrels of ale from the cellar, because the nobility drinks like it's always the end of the world. Mistress Alisoun mutters about undercooked venison. The potboy spills broth and slips. You step over him. No time to help. Your job is to keep moving. Always. Evening comes. The fires burn lower, but not out. You sweep ashes into buckets, scrub the tables, stack the knives. The scent of charred meat lingers in your hair. Your arms feel like rope, your feet like stones. You're hungry, filthy, and numb from the waist down. A final chore. Pick through the leftovers. What wasn't eaten by the nobility is sorted. Some goes to the hounds, some to the guards. A few pieces are tossed to the servants. You catch a crust of bread, a smear of cheese, and a bone with a hint of meat still clinging to it. You savor it like a feast. The cook gives one last order. You obey, then you leave. Outside, the cold hits you like a slap. After the kitchen's heat, it feels almost violent. Your skin prickles. Your breath clouds. You trudge back through the corridors, past shadows, past snores, past candlelight flickering in narrow windows. Back to the servants' quarters, back to straw, back to rats. But your stomach is not empty, and that, for now, is enough. Now, what about if you were fortunate enough to live life in a castle as nobility? Life as a noblewoman in a medieval castle is an intricate dance of restraint, expectation, and unspoken rules. From the outside, it looks like luxury. Lavish gowns, scented baths, jeweled crowns. But step closer, and the picture changes. The trappings are many, but so too are the invisible chains that bind. You wake, not to the sounds of rats scurrying, but to soft linens and the dim light of candles. The bed is enormous, the canopy thick with velvet, designed to block out the draughts that would otherwise make you shiver. The fire is always warm, the window draped with the finest tapestries that tell tales of hunting trips, religious scenes, or distant battles. You stretch under silks that cost more than a month of a servant's wages. But as you stretch, something tugs at your waist, your corset, tight, unforgiving. Even at the first moment of waking, you are constrained, not just by the laces of the corset, but by your role. Your day is already mapped out for you. There is no escape from the restrictions, neither the physical nor the social ones. The maidservants enter quietly, pulling back the curtains and drawing a bath. You glance at the small mirror, a bit cracked perhaps, but still reflective enough to remind you that beauty is your greatest currency. You've been taught that since childhood. Beauty, grace, and charm. Those are your tools for survival. The maidservants help you dress, but they do not linger long. Their eyes avoid yours, as if their very presence is an intrusion. They are there to serve, not to talk. You are their mistress, and they do not forget their place. Today, you'll wear the gown of a noblewoman, fine wool or silk, depending on the occasion. There are layers of fabric, fine stitching that only your tailor knows how to achieve, and enough lace to make you feel like you're wrapped in a web of expectation. But the weight of the gown is nothing compared to the weight of the rules it signifies. As you sit before the mirror, a maid brushes your hair. Once, twice, 100 strokes. It's never fast enough, not for you. But the ritual is more than vanity. It's your way of marking the passage of time, reminding yourself that you are a part of something much larger, a family, a lineage, a castle. But it's not just your hair that must be cared for. You must maintain your composure, always, always perfect. A noblewoman must never let her emotions show, never display too much of herself. Your thoughts are yours alone. Your body is not entirely yours. It is a vessel, a symbol, a part of the grand game of power and marriage. Breakfast is served late, as is proper for someone of your station. The lord of the castle rises first, attending to business matters, while you and the children, if you have any, eat separately from him. His world is one of wars, politics, and decisions that affect the entire kingdom. Yours is built on weaving threads of conversation, managing the household, and ensuring the flow of wealth. As you eat your breakfast, perhaps eggs, honeyed bread, and fresh fruit, your mind begins to turn. Conversations for later swirl in your head. You'll speak to the steward about the budget. You'll meet with the lady-in-waiting to discuss the upcoming ball. The kitchen will need reminders. And there is, of course, the inevitable discussion of your dowry for the daughter or son you've yet to marry off. After breakfast, there are lessons, always lessons. You are taught music, art, language, and history, because all of it serves one purpose: to elevate your status. A noblewoman must always have the right knowledge, the right demeanor. Even the way you hold a cup matters. The hours pass slowly. Endless etiquette, embroidery, and conversation with other noble women who speak of the same things in slightly different ways. Their words are polite, empty, and strategically crafted to avoid confrontation. After all, a disagreement can ruin reputations, and no one wants their reputation ruined. Not when your entire worth is tied to your family's name. But your time is not entirely your own. The castle is a world of observation. Every gesture, every word, every glance is measured by those around you, especially by the servants who have their own system of watching and listening. They know more than you think. They notice what you don't say, what you fail to do, and if you want to escape for a moment, if you want to breathe without the weight of your title. The castle's stone corridors are there, but they are full of ghosts, of your own making. The weight of the castle's expectations follows you everywhere, even in solitude. There's no place that's truly yours, no room where you can speak without hearing your own voice echoing back at you, shaped by society's dictates. Afternoon brings meetings with the steward, discussions of taxes, estates, and inventories. You sign documents that the Lord will eventually approve, or more likely, ignore. But it's your name that appears. You are his partner, his equal in some respects, though never in terms of power. You are expected to manage the affairs of the household, keeping everything in its proper order. And while the world outside is torn apart by conflicts and wars, inside the castle, you are the unbroken thread that keeps things moving. But the evening brings a different kind of pressure. The feast. It begins with the Lord's arrival from the hall. You take your seat at the table, surrounded by guests from distant lands, relatives and allies. The firelight flickers across faces, some familiar, some foreign, and you offer your greetings, polite, kind. The only true emotion allowed in this world is the one you feign. The music begins, the feast starts, the wine flows freely, the food, exquisite, but you do not enjoy it. You are too aware of how it is consumed, of the way your guests eye you, of the way your husband occasionally looks your way, assessing, calculating. At some point, conversation turns to the matter of marriage. Perhaps it's a distant cousin's engagement, or the Lord's wish to arrange a new alliance. Your mind races. The stakes are always high. Tomorrow, you will repeat it all. Another meal, another meeting, another exchange of pleasantries. You rise, tired but composed, and retire to your chamber. The fire has burned low, the servants have finished their duties, and silence wraps itself around the stone walls of your room. You undress slowly, shedding the weight of the day, and as you lie back on your bed, the weight of your world settles once again on your chest. It is an invisible burden, built from expectations, responsibilities, and the roles you must play. Your life is one of privilege, but also of restraint. A noble woman's role is to be beautiful, to be strategic, to remain untouchable. And for all its comfort, that might be the hardest part. Now back to your life as a servant. You walk swiftly through the dark corridors and you notice a sound. A cough. Not yours. Someone else's. A soft, rattling sound from the corridor, innocuous at first. You barely notice it over the clatter of dishes or the drone of a dull conversation. Then another, deeper this time, and another, sharper. You pause. In a castle, noise is constant. Boots on stone, dogs barking, fires hissing, doors groaning. But certain sounds rise above the rest. A cough like that sound sharpens the air. It makes people glance over their shoulders. It makes servants murmur in corners. It makes the cook scowl at nothing in particular. The plague, or something like it, is back. You don't know what it is exactly. People just start falling ill, one by one. No one uses the word plague at first. They say it's just a fever, something in the air, a punishment maybe. And everyone becomes very religious, very quickly. That's when the whispers begin. Lady Cecily hasn't left her room in 2 days. The steward's boy hasn't been seen since last night. The scullery maid collapsed in the kitchen and now lies shaking in the storeroom, eyes glassy, breath shallow. The fear spreads faster than the sickness. Soon there are rules, orders, curtains drawn, rooms sealed, servants reassigned. If someone falls ill, they're quietly removed, carried to a smaller room, far from others, left with a bucket of water, a wooden bowl of broth, and a crucifix. Sometimes they recover. Often they don't. The physician arrives from the village, smelling of garlic and vinegar, muttering about humours and bad air. He wears a beaked mask packed with herbs, a sort of mobile garden designed to protect him from whatever he thinks is floating in the air. His remedies are a blend of hope, superstition, and sheer guesswork. He bleeds the patients. He burns sage in the halls. He rubs onions on their feet. Nothing works. The castle, once loud and bustling, grows quieter, not peaceful, just strained, as if the very stones are holding their breath. The great hall is half empty. Servants walk with urgency now, heads down. No one lingers. No one talks more than necessary. Even the noble family keeps to their private chambers. You're instructed to avoid contact, not by logic, but by fear. The steward tells you to keep to your tasks and not to ask questions. So you do, because what else can you do? You carry linens from room to room, gloves on your hands, a scarf wrapped tightly around your face. You replace soiled bedding, then burn it in the courtyard. The smell of charred fabric, vomit, and rosemary hangs in the air like a warning. The laundry basin is never empty. The soap, what little there is, burns your hands. You begin to wash not just clothes, but walls, door handles, floorboards, anything you think might help. No one really knows. The rats have returned. Not that they ever left, but now they seem bolder, fatter, hungrier. You see one dragging a piece of biscuit through the hall. You chase it away, but it just looks at you, unimpressed. It's not scared anymore. You see them everywhere, in the kitchens, in the walls, beneath the floorboards. You hear them scratching at night. You wonder if they know something you don't. The priest comes more often now. He walks the halls with a censer, swinging it rhythmically, the sweet scent of incense failing to mask the reek of sickness. He offers prayers, comfort, and last rites, sometimes all three in the same visit. Burials increase, quiet ones, no processions, no mass, just a wrapped body, a shallow grave, and a cross hastily planted. The graveyard outside grows crowded, too crowded. They start digging closer to the castle. You wake one morning to find your bunkmate gone. She'd been coughing through the night. Now her bed is empty, straw still warm. No one speaks of it. You don't ask. By the end of the week, half the staff is gone, either sick or missing. Duties double, then triple. Meals are late. Fires go out. Rooms remain uncleaned. The castle begins to fray at the edges. There's talk of rats spreading the disease, of miasma in the air, of sin, always sin. Someone's done something to offend God. The noblewoman blames the washerwoman. The steward blames the herbalist. The priest blames everyone. You blame the rats. You still go about your work because it's the only thing left to do. There is no escape. The gates are shut tight. No one leaves. No one comes in. It's safer that way, or so they say. By the second week, the only noise in the great hall is the sound of fire crackling and coughs echoing from upstairs. A dog whines somewhere, locked in a storage room. No one has fed it today. Your hands are raw from scrubbing. Your eyes sting from smoke. Your stomach aches with hunger. And then, just as quietly as it began, it fades. The coughs grow fewer. The priest visits less. The physician returns to his cottage, muttering about leeches and divine mercy. The chapel bells stop tolling every morning. It's not gone, not completely, but it's hiding again. And so, the fires are stoked once more. The rushes are replaced. Life resumes, sort of. You notice the gaps first. Missing faces at the dinner table. Empty beds. Tools left out, unused. Voices you can no longer place. Names you try to remember. No one speaks of them directly. They're just gone. The noblewoman sighs with relief. her perfume once again stronger than the scent of vinegar. The steward updates the ledger, marking names with small crosses. The cook shrinks her portions. The rats keep eating. You survive. But the castle is quieter now, and the silence feels heavier than the plague ever did. And just as normality is returning to the castle, a new danger approaches. You hear it before you see it. The horns, low, mournful, blown from somewhere beyond the hills. Not music, not warning. Just a sound that tells you everything is about to change. The castle is under siege. There's no dramatic storming of the gates. Not yet. Just a message sent by trumpet and torch. A banner unfurled in the distance. The enemy encamps far enough away to seem small, but close enough to be terrifying. You don't know who they are, not really. Rebels, rivals, raiders, it doesn't matter. All you need to know is this: they want in, and you're in here. The gates are closed, the drawbridge raised. Every plank and post is secured. The castle tightens itself like a clenched fist. And just like that, the world shrinks. The fields are abandoned. Livestock huddled inside the outer bailey. Anyone who didn't make it in on time didn't make it. You hear the stories in whispers, of a shepherd boy caught outside, of a merchant's wife on the wrong side of the wall. No one can confirm them. No one wants to. Inside, life slows, but it doesn't stop. Servants double their efforts. Food is rationed. Fires are stoked, but carefully. There's no telling how long the siege will last. You haul sacks of grain to the cellar. Not fresh, not pleasant, but edible. Some of it is crawling. You sift the worst of it out. The rats, now officially emboldened, are your competitors. You tie up the sacks high, stuff cracks with cloth, pray it holds. In the hall, torches flicker even during the day. The windows are too narrow for real light. The smell of too many people, too few baths, and unwashed wool grows thick. You get used to it, mostly. The nobility withdraw into themselves. The lord prowls the battlements in polished armor he hasn't worn in years. The lady clutches her rosary like it's a weapon. The children play quieter games now, hushed, wary. They know something is wrong, even if no one explains it. You are told to avoid the walls unless called, but you sneak up once just to see. The sight is worse than you imagined. Tents, campfires, soldiers in rows, like ants with weapons. Banners with symbols you don't recognize. They look cold, patient, not in a rush. They don't have to be. You step back, suddenly chilled despite the torches. There are stories, always stories, of what happens when a castle falls. Some exaggerated, some not. You've heard about what they do to servants, to women, to children. You try not to think about it. Inside, the routines become rituals. Meals served on time, if smaller. Prayers said more often. Work continues, not because there is much to do, but because the alternative is waiting. And waiting is dangerous. You notice it in the others. The cook snipping at everything. The steward checking locks that don't need checking. The seamstress murmuring to herself as she patches torn sleeves for no one in particular. Even the priest, usually a font of calm, is jumpy. He keeps glancing at the sky like it owes him answers. The days blur. Outside, the enemy waits. Sometimes you hear them shouting, taunts, threats, or worse, silence. Silence means planning. Silence means they're thinking. One morning, a flaming arrow lands in the courtyard. It doesn't hit anything, just a warning, just a reminder. The garrison rushes to arms. The guards double their posts. Everyone watches the sky. A few days later, the well water tastes different, a little off. You don't ask why, but you know. Someone hears movement in the walls, digging. You pray it's just rats. You always pray it's just rats. Then come the first deaths, not from arrows, not from swords, from within. The baker collapses. No wound, just gone. A weak heart, someone says. Or maybe fear, or hunger. The cook's apprentice disappears. Maybe he ran. Maybe he didn't. At night, you lie in the servants' quarters, huddled under thin blankets with a dozen others, and listen. Not to the wind, to breathing, to crying, to murmured prayers in languages you don't know. And beneath it all, dread, not panic, not yet. Dread is quieter, heavier. It's not loud footsteps, it's the feeling they're coming. The castle begins to stink. Waste builds faster than anyone can clear it. The guards grow more irritable. The dogs bark constantly. You feel it in your bones, that slow press of fear, the kind that doesn't shout. It seeps. The Lord calls a council. Doors shut. Voices rise. Someone throws a goblet. It shatters. No one picks it up. A few nights later, you hear the soldiers arguing near the gate. One wants to open it. The other wants to hang him for suggesting it. You pretend not to hear. You pretend you still believe they'll hold. But deep down, everyone knows. The real danger isn't just the army outside. It's the slow unraveling within. Still, you work. You light fires, boil water, haul grain, mend tunics, you endure. Because in a siege, there are no heroes, no victories, only survivors, and you intend to be one. Up high in the tower, the wind howls through the crenellations, whistling through the arrow slits, like some ancient ghost that forgot how to leave. It bites at your ears, your fingers, the nape of your neck, where your helmet doesn't quite reach. You stamp your feet, not for warmth, there is none, but to remind yourself you're still capable of moving. You're a guard now, a soldier of the night watch. Not by choice. No one wants this post, but someone has to take it. And tonight it's you. Maybe tomorrow too. Depends on who survives the week. Your armor is heavier than it looks. Not the shining kind from paintings. Chainmail, patched and dull. It smells like iron and old sweat, and it's colder than stone until your body heats it, if it ever does. Your cloak flaps behind you, damp from yesterday's sleet. Above, the stars watch silently. They don't care who's on which side of the wall. You pace the rampart slowly. Each step echoes faintly. The stone beneath your boots is slick, worn smooth by 100 winters and 1,000 weary feet. Somewhere below, a brazier crackles, its flame giving more light than warmth. You wish you were closer to it, but your post is on the far tower, the northeast corner, where shadows stretch longest and watchfulness matters most. You pause, listen. Nothing. Then, maybe something. A branch snapping, a distant footstep. You strain to hear. It might be wind, might be something worse. Either way, you clutch your spear a little tighter. Your eyes scan the fields below. Darkness stretches in every direction, broken only by the pale flicker of enemy campfires in the distance. They're still there, watching, like you. You shift your weight, careful not to lean too heavily on the wall. One misstep, and it's a long, final drop. That happened last month. A boy too tired, too green. They said he fell. Some say he jumped. No one asked too many questions. You take another lap around the battlements, nod to the other sentries, silent men wrapped in furs and fatigue. No one talks unless they have to. There's nothing to say that hasn't already been said. Keep watch. Don't fall asleep. don't die. You hear the owl before you see it, a low hoot from the woods beyond. It makes you jump. You hate that it makes you jump. Then, silence again. A perfect, terrifying stillness. This is the curse of the night watch. Not the fear of what you see, but the endless imagining of what you don't. You remember the stories told at the fire earlier, of scouts found with their throats cut, of ladders built in the dark, of soldiers who vanished on patrol, their boots left behind as if they melted into the ground. None of it confirmed, all of it believed. You hear another noise, different this time, low, repeating. You peer over the wall. There, in the trees, movement. Too far to see clearly, too dark for details. But something shifts. You grip your spear, lean forward. It's nothing, or it's everything. You hold your breath until the moment passes. Then you exhale, slow and quiet. You've been told that if you see a torch where there shouldn't be one, ring the bell. If you hear climbing, shout the alarm. If you feel the wall shaking, pray. You haven't had to do any of those yet, but every time you close your eyes, you imagine them. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time stretches thin on the walls. It bends under the weight of waiting. You've paced this same stretch of stone so many times, you could walk it blind. You hear the clink of armor, another guard approaching. You don't greet him, just a nod. That's all either of you can spare. He passes. You wonder if he's more tired than you, or less scared. Then, above to the left, a flicker. You freeze. Eyes locked on a dark patch of stone. Is it movement? A shadow? Nothing? You wait. Count. Blink. Nothing. You move on, heart racing. Below, the castle sleeps uneasily. The servants huddle in their straw beds. The nobility toss and turn on feather mattresses. Somewhere, a baby cries once and is quickly hushed. You envy them in a way. Not their comfort, just the ability to sleep. Your shift ends at dawn, but dawn feels fictional right now. You pull your cloak tighter. Wipe your nose with the back of your glove. The wind doesn't ease. It never does. It just changes direction, like a mood. When the watch is over, you'll go back to your corner in the barracks. You'll lie down in your armor, too cold to remove it. You'll eat hard bread, drink weak ale, maybe close your eyes for an hour. And then, likely, you'll be posted again. Because there aren't enough men. Because the enemy waits. Because the castle stands. Because you stand. You take another lap. You look out across the dark. And you keep watch. One thing history can't tell us about life in a medieval castle is the smell. They can't tell you about the smell. Paintings never show it. Songs never mention it. Fairy tales skip right over it. But once you've lived inside a medieval castle for more than a day, you realize the air is a permanent assault. It's not one smell. It's a concert. The overture begins with manure. There are animals everywhere. Horses in the stables, oxen in the yard, pigs in the mud, chickens underfoot. The livestock live just outside the walls, and sometimes just inside, especially in winter or siege. They defecate where they stand. That's your starting point. Then comes the sweat. Not the polite kind, not a touch of perspiration. The kind that soaks through wool tunics and hangs in the air like mist. The kind that lingers long after the person has left the room. Servants, guards, cooks, children, even nobles. Everyone sweats, and no one bathes regularly. Water is precious. Soap is rare. Hot water is a myth, so the smell stays. Next is the food. Not the good kind. Not roasting meat or baking bread. Those are fleeting. No, this is old stew gone sour. Spoiled milk. Fish 3 days past its prime. Barrels of ale turned to vinegar. root vegetables that have stopped pretending to be edible. The kitchen produces wonders, but it also hides horrors. Behind every feast is a pile of waste. Most of it doesn't leave the castle. It just finds a corner. Add to that ash from the hearths, chamber pots not emptied fast enough, rushes soaked with spilled wine, urine, and secrets. And of course the plague room, which still faintly whispers of vinegar, rot, and despair. All of it mingles into a scent so dense you stop smelling it. Not because it's gone, because your brain gives up. But that's just the smell. Then comes the noise. It never stops. At dawn, it's the dogs. Barking, yowling, fighting over scraps. Then it's the stable boys shouting, the blacksmith hammering, the servants scurrying through the halls with clanging buckets and slamming doors. The kitchen wakes next. Pans crash, knives scrape, wood is split, fires roar. Someone drops a ladle. Someone else screams, always. Children scream too, not out of fear, just because they can. Noble boys joust with sticks in the hallway. A girl shrieks because her ribbon was the wrong colour. A nursemaid yells over them all. Meanwhile, in the great hall, a minstrel practices the same song for the 6th time, off-key. The lord laughs too loudly. The lady's parrot won't stop repeating the steward's profanity. And above it all, the priest is chanting Latin in a corner, hoping God hears him over the chaos. The guard shifts change with shouted orders. Boots stomp on the wooden stairs. Iron scrapes on stone. The watch bell rings too often and never on time. Outside, a pig escapes. Someone chases it. 2 hounds join. A soldier slips in mud and curses for a full minute without repeating himself. Then someone starts hammering again. You try to close your eyes in the servants' quarters. You shove straw in your ears. You bury your head under your arm. Doesn't matter. The castle hums, growls, echoes, lives. Even in the dead of night, there's no true silence. You hear the scratching of rats in the rafters, the coals cracking in the hearth, a baby coughing, a man snoring like he's sawing wood with his throat, the wind moaning through loose shutters, and always somewhere footsteps. Footsteps that don't always belong to anyone you know. You hear crying too, sometimes from children, sometimes not, sometimes from yourself, quietly, just once in a while, just to release the pressure. It's not just the noise, it's the weight of it. You can't think in it, can't breathe right. It presses down on you like the castle itself, stone layered on stone, layered on history and rot and chores and sweat. There's no space to stretch, no peace to find. The tapestries hang in the great hall, muffling nothing. The banners flutter overhead, pretending this is glory. But even the stained glass can't colour the air enough to disguise what you live in. The noble guests talk of poetry and courtly love. They sip wine with pinched fingers and breathe through scented cloths. They say castles are elegant. They don't sleep in the servant wing, next to the latrines. They don't carry waste in the morning. They don't scrub blood off the rushes after a feast goes wrong. You do. And all the while, the noise, the smell, the pressure of it all. This is what the songs forget. But you won't. You live it. You breathe it. You survive it. Now the day ends, but not with a cheer or a sunset chorus. Not with the triumph of duty well done. Just ends. Like a candle that runs out of wax. You don't even notice the moment it becomes night. The sky just darkens, slowly, softly, until it disappears entirely, leaving behind a moon somewhere above and a dozen flickering torches struggling to imitate it. Inside the castle sighs. The great hall empties, plates cleared, bones scraped into buckets, goblets half drained, forgotten. The nobles shuffle off to their warm chambers. The fire burns low. Someone plays a final note on a lute, then stops, mid-chord, too tired to finish the song. You scrape candle wax from a table corner. Your hands move without thought now, trained by habit, dulled by exhaustion. The day has been long, like every other, like the next one will be. Someone else is sweeping, another stacking logs. The priest mutters a final prayer behind closed chapel doors. Even the guards seem quieter, their armor creaking more than their voices. It's the only time the castle feels almost gentle. Almost. You carry the last of the kindling to the servant hearth. It pops with quiet flame, just enough to make the stone glow red around it. You stretch your hands toward it. They're chapped, cracked, aching. You don't care. The cook's gone to bed. The animals are still. The dogs lie curled up on rush mats, tails twitching in dreams. Someone snores faintly from the far end of the hall. You steal a heel of bread and chew slowly, eyes half closed. It tastes like dust and sleep. You don't even finish it. The servants' quarters are cold tonight, colder than last night. Or maybe you're just more tired. You push open the wooden door, step inside, and exhale. It's not warm, not quiet, not clean, but it's familiar. And tonight, that's enough. You step over a slumbering form. Someone's already asleep, mouth open, arm draped over a bundle of rags. Another huddles in the corner, knees to chest, rocking slightly in the half-dream of fever or prayer. You reach your bed, if you can call it that. Straw, thin, prickly, uneven. A blanket that used to be wool and now feels like burlap. A bundle of cloth for a pillow. It smells like everything the castle does. But here, it smells like rest. You lie down. Your bones protest. Your shoulders remind you of every pot you carried, every rush you scrubbed, every stair you climbed. Your hands pulse. Your feet are numb. Your eyelids pull downward like they're being lowered by chains. You don't undress. There's no point. You pull the blanket over your shoulders and curl in on yourself like you're trying to disappear. And finally, silence. Not perfect silence, of course. There's always something. Someone breathing nearby, a rat scratching, the wind outside moaning through the towers like a distant flute. But inside your own skin, stillness. You feel it now, in that narrow space between waking and sleep, a strange kind of peace. Not happiness, not comfort, just stillness. A pause, a breath between days. You remember faintly something someone said once, that castles are places of glory, of kings and legends, of honor. Maybe somewhere for someone that's true. But for you, the castle is a cycle. You wake, you work, you endure. And now, you rest. You let go of the ache in your back. You let the warmth of the dying fire kiss your cheeks. You drift, slowly, gently, like a stone sinking in cold water. Dreams come softly here. Sometimes they take you far away, to green fields, quiet woods, a world without rushes to change or pots to carry. Sometimes they take you nowhere at all. Tonight, you feel them coming. Light at first, flickers behind your eyelids, sounds that aren't real, moments that aren't quite remembered, but familiar. You let them in, because the day is done, and so are you. The castle breathes around you, slow, steady, heavy with age. And somewhere, beyond the walls, beyond the fields, beyond the night, tomorrow waits. Life in a medieval castle wasn't romantic. It wasn't noble. It wasn't clean or quiet or fair. It was cold stone and harder mornings, frozen water in a wooden bowl, bread without flavour, chores without end. It was the burden of servitude, the suffocation of nobility, the terror of plague, and the silence of siege. It was sweat and soot and survival. The castle may have been a symbol of power to those outside its walls, but to those within, it was a relentless machine, one that demanded labour, absorbed suffering, and gave little in return. Servants bore the weight of every chamber pot and soot-stained tapestry. Cooks toiled in the heat, surrounded by food they'd never taste. Noble women wore silks that chafed and smiles that never reached their eyes. Guards paced ramparts not out of glory, but out of obligation. And through it all, the noise, the stench, the fear, and the quiet resilience of those who endured. But in the end, life in a medieval castle wasn't about valor or vengeance. It was about getting through the day. And now you must ask yourself, do you think you could have survived a day? Thank you for coming on this journey with me tonight. I truly hope you go on to have a wonderful night's sleep and restful dreams. If you enjoyed this story, I'd appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and maybe even comment on other places you would like to visit, and I'll try and make it happen. But for now, settle down, relax, close your eyes, and drift off. May sound sleep and beautiful dreams come to you tonight. You deserve it.